Hey everybody, I'm Brittany Lewis, a breaking news reporter here at Forbes. Joining me now at Iconoclast is Sonia Gardner. Sonia, I appreciate you coming on today.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Of course, a theme that we have really heard throughout the day is AI. And one of the panelists said, one of the most common phrases you hear today, aside from hi, bye, and thank you, is AI. So why do you think we are seeing this fast-growing technology?
I think that it's amazing, right, what AI can do, and also what will AI be able to do in the future. Just recently, Microsoft announced that we're going to have Excel and Word and be able to create spreadsheets just by asking for it, right? So if you think about the amount of time that you can save, but then the flip side is, well, what type of mistakes will be made? Right? So you have to balance that. And the question is, will it do 50% of your work and then you have to do the other 50%? Or is it going to do a much larger amount? And then the risks of AI, right? I think that's what everybody's talking about right now.
Let's talk about that, because it sounds like you're saying we should be cautiously embracing AI, but what are those risks?
I think the risks, this morning I saw something which I thought was very interesting, just in terms even of the election, right? That there is fake news, fake pictures, AI just being on Facebook, and the amount, Twitter, everything that can be generated. And in terms of how much of AI is going to be spreading news, and how are we going to differentiate between what's accurate and what's not? So that is part of the risk, right? And in terms of what is the regulation? And will companies be fined? Will there be regulation in terms of what you can do, what you must disclose? No, we don't have any of those answers. So I think that this time, it would be good if the government got ahead of it, right? And instead of seeing some of the problems that some of technology brought. There's so many positives, but there are also risks, and there needs to be some regulation. At least I think so.
I do want to talk about those positives. A, what do you think they are? And B, are you excited for this future where we are working in tandem with AI?
Yes, I'm excited for it. I think the younger generation is even more excited, right? That's all they can talk about, and they're using it a lot already. I think that if it makes us more efficient, I think that's a good thing, right? In terms of, do I think that it's going to replace people and lower the workforce? At least I don't believe so. Not by large quantities, because you're still going to have to double check everything. And I'm sure there's a limit to how much of the work that can be done by AI.
That's a relief, because when you hear AI, the first thing everyone asks me, regardless of industry, is, am I going to be replaced? Is my job safe? And in March, Goldman Sachs predicted 300 million jobs will be lost or degraded by artificial intelligence. So when you hear that kind of staggering number, what's your reaction?
I think that unfortunately, it's probably true in a lot of industries, right? So we have a small firm. So do I think that AI, I'm looking through my own microscope here in terms of what is it going to do with our firm. I don't see us replacing a lot of people with AI. But
your employees can breathe a sigh of relief right now.
Exactly. But do I see that globally? Sure, of course. A lot of companies will reduce the workforce if they're saving money, it's more efficient, and they figure out ways where they're not making mistakes.
I'm so excited to be sitting here talking with you, in the room with you. You're a co-founder of Avenue Capital Group. So I want to ask you, what is your advice to young women, especially in terms of investment? What do you think they should be doing? What do you wish someone told you?
I think that the best advice that I can give, and what I do say to young women, because for me that's my favorite type of audience when I'll go to a university or have people in the office and they're young, just starting out, and they want to know, well, why aren't there more senior women? How am I going to become a senior woman? And I think that really the best advice I can give is to really take a chance when you're young and make sure you do something that you love. I mean, obviously work hard, right? That's the advice that everybody gives you. But also never give up, because I think that women in particular, and other minorities as well, face a lot of challenges and biases, right? Whether they're overt or subconscious. I mean, either way, it's difficult. But I would say to persevere and try to find a mentor, because I think that really helps if you have someone to talk to. And the other piece is a lot of women drop out of the workforce at different points in their life. And I would say stay in the workforce, even on a part-time basis, because it's very hard when you leave completely to come back. And I've seen that happen with a lot of women. And really, as long as, even if you're in just on a part-time basis, you can always come back full-time. And it's one of those things that unfortunately it happens to women. You don't see men dropping out of the workforce the way that women do. But for us, in terms of women that started 40 years ago, I think it's easier now, and we have made some strides, but there's still a long way to go. And I like to be positive about it. I mean, I think that this topic gets talked to death to some degree, and as opposed to focusing on the positive, a lot of people tend to focus on the negative. So it can be done, but you don't have to be Superwoman. You don't have to be doing everything. Just do the best you can.
I like that piece of keeping your feet wet, because it's easier once you're at least a little bit in there in the part-time angle. You can still go back to full-time. But can you give us a little insight into your career? Give us an example of a time you kept persevering, you never gave up. One of those stories that sticks with you when you're looking back, reflecting on your career, it's at the top of your mind.
Yeah. So, well, when I started, it was my brother and I formed our own firm. So I like to say I didn't have to climb up the corporate ladder, because I was at the top of the corporate ladder, but there was 3 of us. So it wasn't that deep a team. But I think in the very beginning, it was very exciting, but also very hard, right? We were trying to build a business, and we would kind of look at each other at the end of every year and say, you know, in the very beginning, are we going to be able to do this next year and keep the lights on? Because
what gave you the guts to keep going, even when you had those questions?
I think that, I mean, we were young. I was 26 and he was 29. But I think the fact that it wasn't like we had a goal of we need to be this big. It was really about working hard and trying to build something. And at the time, we thought we would build something maybe with 10 people, right? There was never this goal of we need to be X billion. I mean, in the very beginning, it's a matter of doing well enough that you can support the business, support your employees. And I think that's a big piece of it, having an obligation to the people that work for you. And I think the one, when you say what sticks in your mind, I'll never forget when, you know, and back then you're working 24/7, there was no such thing as a BlackBerry or, you know, working from home. It just didn't exist. You had to physically be in the office. And it was on the weekend, and I went downtown to pick up the sign that we had ordered. It was like we had our own office space, and I went to the office, and I got on a ladder and I hammered the sign into, and I, you know, it sounds silly, but that was such a sense of accomplishment in terms of we have a real office, like we actually have space. and really have pride in what you're doing and pride in what you're building.
Doesn't sound silly at all. Actually, I got chills because that's something tangible. You can say, look, I accomplished this, here's my sign, and then look how it's grown throughout the years. Sonia Gardner, I appreciate you coming on.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.